I don't think we realize how severe and how crazy this whole situation has just gotten. So let me give you some information real quick. So when the feds in the Southern District, specifically the Southern District, they have a 99% conviction rate. 99%. Despite all of this situation happening, there was one person that warned us and told us that all lies would be exposed in 2024, and that was Cat Williams. Let's go ahead and listen to that clip just to remind everybody what he was talking about and what he was saying.
I came in this business saying I was going to expose. When I talked about Michael Jackson, when I talked about R. Kelly, they canceled me for these things because why would you talk about another black dude? Race is not where the line is drawn. It's God's side and the other side. And we don't care nothing about the other side. Period. All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is, TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
So we're going to go ahead and quickly jump over to the Law and Crime Network, and we're going to look at this video that they posted. It says, Judge sends P. Diddy to jail ahead of sex trafficking trial.
This office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that.
The feds take Sean Diddy Combs into custody, accusing him of racketeering and sex trafficking. The music mogul spending the night behind bars with his attorney, vowing to fight for him.
I'm going to fight like hell to get him released, and he should be released with all that he's done and coming here voluntarily.
I take a look at what life behind bars could be like for Combs and why prosecutors want to keep him locked up. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Telling you that Sean Combs has been indicted on racketeering and sex trafficking charges really isn't a shock. We've been telling you for months that he was under investigation by the Department of Homeland Security, which investigates sex trafficking. But for someone like Combs to go from living in the lap of luxury to being behind bars, that has to be an absolute shock to him. Combs has apparently been in New York since late last week in anticipation of the indictment. News Nation obtained exclusive video of him talking with his attorney and one of his sons in a park over the weekend.
So they were saying that it was coordinated that Diddy returned to New York and stayed in New York in anticipation for him to actually get arrested. The reason that he was doing that, it was because he didn't want the case, or he didn't want it to come up that he would be a flight risk, that he would basically leave the country, flee, or go anywhere else. So he wanted to cooperate with them. So I'm assuming his attorney and whoever else that was, had the charges against him were in cahoots, or they were in communication, basically saying that he will be here. He's not going to run anywhere. And the point of that was strictly to see if he can get bail, because he wanted to get bail, but his bail was denied. That's what we learned of today.
Here's Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, outside of court.
This is what we've been expecting since the searches in March.
Yep.
He, to his great credit, he voluntarily came to New York. Not a lot of defendants do that. He came to New York to basically engage the court system and start the case.
So Mark Agnifilo said he believes Sean Combs should be released, but federal prosecutors wanted him detained. They claim he's a flight risk.
They're not releasing that boy.
They wrote in a detention letter. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses a significant risk of obstructing justice. Indeed, and as set forth below, during the course of the charged conduct, the defendant has attempted to bribe security staff and threatened and interfered with witnesses to his criminal conduct. He has already tried to obstruct the government's investigation of this case, repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses and feeding them false narratives of events, as described in detail below.
So it's saying he already tried to obstruct the government's investigation of this case. He was repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses and feeding them false narratives of events, as described in details below. He was already trying to foul play the case. Like, he knows how serious this is.
Federal prosecutors claim Combs created and ran a criminal enterprise through his businesses, including Combs Global. Here's U.S. Attorney Damian Williams.
The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
So when they say that he used the business to carry out a lot of those things, if I'm not mistaken, they're considering it a criminal empire. So when they do that, and if he's convicted, then that means they can seize everything, right? They can seize all his possessions. They can freeze his bank account. They can take all his properties. They can even take his music catalog too as well. So this is super serious. And all the way back to 2008, the feds are not playing, man. They're going to take every single thing that he owns.
Prosecutors claim Combs used his businesses to host freak-offs, which are elaborate sex parties in which sex workers were employed and sometimes were transported across state lines.
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them.
Gosh, come on, man.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and
Wait, did he just say these freak-offs lasted days at a time? Days at a time. Like, bro, y'all ain't got nothing else to do? That's crazy. Days at a time? So this is probably why we've heard too that they said they've recovered over like 1,000 bottles of like baby oil too as well. Baby oil and lubrication. They recovered all of that stuff from, I don't know if it was his parties or the hotels or whatever it was.
often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
Wow.
As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
Now, one of those incidents of hitting and kicking involved Cassie Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend, whose bombshell civil suit really seemed to open the floodgates for other lawsuits.
It did.
And possibly even led to this investigation. Cassie Ventura's attorney has said in the past that she was willing to cooperate with federal investigators. But now that Combs has been indicted, Ventura and her attorney, Douglas Wigder, are not commenting at all.
They don't need her anymore.
The U.S. attorney went on to detail the incident involving Ventura, which was also detailed in a letter asking the judge to keep Combs behind bars until his trial.
So a lot of people that I've talked to, and including myself, when we heard all these allegations and all these things, we wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. We were probably 50% on the side that he did it and 50% on the side that he didn't. Then once we saw this video of what he did to Cassie, like all bets was off. Like, I don't care who you are, bro. We don't rock with people that beat women and hit women and do stuff like that. That's crazy, bro. Once people saw that, they was like, a lot of that stuff that people are saying is probably true. Like, this was sad. Like, I feel bad for her. And that's probably why the case was settled as quickly as it was, or settled outside of court with her.
Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee. As alleged, these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse.
Federal prosecutors referenced that 2016 hotel incident with Cassie Ventura when asking the judge to keep Combs in jail, writing that he has a history of trying to bribe people. They wrote, when a member of hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer the hotel security officer a stack of cash to ensure his silence. After the security guard refused the defendant's bribe, and after coordination between the defendant and his employees, the defendant's staff contacted other members of hotel security. At the same time, staff members were in close communication with the victim of the assault as well, all in an effort to cover up the defendant's assault and to prevent the incident from being publicly disclosed. Within days of the incident, the surveillance video disappeared from the hotel's server.
Bro, so he was out here literally trying to bribe everybody. He was bribing everybody and threatening everybody. And then the surveillance footage disappeared. Yeah, I can see why people were probably scared, because Diddy is a very powerful guy, right? He's a very powerful man, a billionaire, record exec. He's been in the game for a long time. He's friends with a lot of high, powerful people. But this makes me think too, if they have all this video and all this footage, how many other people is connected to what's going on? How many other people have had something to do with some of the things that he's being charged with? That's really the scariest part about this whole thing. Besides what he did to all those people and those victims, that is, let me rephrase, that is the scariest part. But on top of that, who else is secretly involved in all this stuff that's going on? Who doesn't want this information to get out? And it's crazy because all the recordings and all the documentation of everything, I really wonder what's going to happen.
Is also accused of transporting women sex workers across state lines for the freak-offs. Federal prosecutors also noted an incident from 2011 where they claim Combs and a co-conspirator kidnapped a person. Then, according to the letter, approximately 2 weeks later, the defendant's co-conspirators set fire to individual one's vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside.
So is that the Kid Cudi situation, where they said Kid Cudi's car was set on fire after something with him and Cassie? I don't think he was messing with her. Maybe he was flirting with her or looking at her or something. Is that situation? If you know, let me know down in the comments.
Interior. Police and fire department reports extensively document the arson and conclude that the fire was intentionally set. Multiple witnesses would also testify the defendant bragged about his role in destroying individual one's car. Federal prosecutors also argued that Combs owned guns and has used them to threaten and intimidate people, and they cited photos of guns and magazines that they found in Combs's home. But Combs's lawyer argued he should be allowed to post bail, calling him eminently trustworthy. Mark Agnifilo proposed a $50 million bond package using Combs's Miami home as collateral. Agnifilo noted that Combs has been trying to sell his jet since April of this year and has actually signed an agreement to do so. Combs also made a reservation to stay at a hotel in New York as he awaits trial, but the judge was not persuaded. Yeah. He ordered that Sean Combs will remain detained until his trial on these charges.
So I was actually sent this by one of my subscribers, so shout out to you, bro. It's by someone on X named Megan Cuniff. I'm not sure, but she's saying this is the documents that was actually, from that case. So I went ahead and pulled it up, and that's what these documents are right here. So let's just read through some of these things from the document. Freak-offs occurred regularly from at least in or around 2009 through this year, sometimes lasted multiple days, and frequently involved multiple sex workers. The defendant arranged freak-offs with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, including employees of his business, and the hotel rooms where they were staged often sustained significant damages. Wow. So if you look down here at the bottom, it says, for example, in 2012 in Manhattan, the defendant paid over $46,000 to cover the damages to a penthouse room following a freak-off. They was getting it in, and he was just paying the money. It's Diddy. He got it. So the $46,000, that was probably nothing to him. So they have pictures of these firearms. The defendant continues to have access to guns, including illegal firearms. In March 2024, during searches of the defendant's residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition. We already know that already. 3 AR-15s. Serial numbers were scratched off. And large capacity drum magazines. Wow. 223. Dang. He wasn't playing. Wow. So yeah, if you want to see that full document, you can pretty much go online and search the full document. You should be able to see it. There's several different ones. Like there's another one. Where's the other one at? It's this one. I believe this is the official document. I'm not sure if the other one that we are looking at is the official document. But multiple sources have said that this one is the official document. And I got this from Rolling Stone. So you can go in here and you should pretty much be able to see every single thing on there. So let's go ahead and end it with this video from Rolling Stone. It's basically when the attorney gave the details of the case and everything like that. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics.
So let me just correct that. I said the freak-offs were the actual sex workers, but the freak-offs were the sex workers that performed the sexual acts at his party. So just to clarify that before y'all come for me.
Just ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair. On one occasion in March of 2016, that conduct was captured on video and later reported in the media. Specifically, Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a victim in a Los Angeles hotel when the victim was attempting to flee.
Yep, we know that. That was the
As
Cassie
alleged,
situation.
these assaults often resulted in injuries to the victims, which took days or weeks to heal. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims.
Wow.
And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more abuse. The indictment also alleges other acts of violence undertaken by Combs and others, including violence against witnesses to his abuse, kidnapping, and arson. The The indictment alleges that on more than one occasion, Combs carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten victims and witnesses. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting.
It's crazy.
When the hotel rooms got damaged,
This is crazy.
they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial sex workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial sex workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes. During the March 2016 incident at the LA hotel that I mentioned earlier, a member of the hotel security staff intervened, and Combs attempted to bribe the staff member with a stack of cash to make sure that what happened was kept quiet. And as the indictment alleges, in late 2023, after public allegations were made about Combs's crimes, he and others pressured witnesses and victims to stay silent, including by making phone calls to witnesses and victims and giving them a false narrative of what they had experienced. And as alleged, Combs used others to help conceal his abuse by monitoring and preventing victims from leaving a location in order to hide their injuries, or by locating and contacting a victim who had attempted to flee. As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs's residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs's electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether.
Bro, 1,000 bottles altogether of lubrication and baby oil. Like, bro, come on, bro. Come on. Again, this is deeper than what we thought it was. Like, I could literally go on and on to watch this forever because it's so long. Allegedly, they said, like, he shot somebody in a bathroom before. Allegedly, he had somebody hanging over a balcony. Like, I was literally just talking to my brother, and my brother was like, they got it seem like this dude is a mob boss. Based on everything we're hearing, that's what it sounds like, because he has everybody shook. He's bribing everybody. He has all these people working for him. This man just got a lot of money. Somebody brought up something. They were saying it's similar to like the Epstein case or the Epstein situation, that even though they feel like Diddy is guilty, they said they fear for him when he goes to jail. They don't know what kind of jail he's going to be going to until he actually gets his sentence. But Epstein was in jail, and Epstein was allegedly killed or allegedly committed suicide. And on that same night that he was there, the security staff didn't make their normal rounds that they normally make. And 2 cameras weren't working, and the evidence and the video from them cameras weren't working either. So you couldn't see what happened to Epstein. So he was basically saying like he's in fear for him when he goes to jail. Now, my particular opinion, I don't wish harm or death or anything on anybody, because at the end of the day, there's one man that we all have to answer to, and that's God. This is just wild. And I'm telling you, this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. So I'm praying for all the victims. I'm hoping that whatever happens comes out of this case and this whole situation, that people will be able to find justice. And even though they might not have peace at the end of the day, hopefully they can get some clarity and they can get some things handled and some things situated. But do me a favor, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss anything else that we put out on S.O.C University.